So you're doing it, you're taking action. Now is the time. No more procrastination. You are starting your podcast. You look into the platforms and oof, you feel overwhelmed. Because in the old paradigm of podcasting, you have these platforms like Apple Podcasts that used to be iTunes, and now you have Spotify. But then you have other platforms like Stitcher, Podbean, Buzzsprout that tell you they help you with X, Y, and Z. And it's like, whoa, a whole new world. But today I'm going to tell you that to me, the best platform is YouTube, and that's going to keep things simple. I like to keep things simple in general, and I'm speaking not only from research, but also from experience of having a podcast for more than 6.5 years now, the Light Leaders podcast. And I used to play the game of the Apple and the Spotify, and I ended up having many more views on YouTube. So here are 6 reasons why the best platform for podcasting most of the time is YouTube. Now, it doesn't mean we totally ditch the rest. I still publish my podcast on Apple and Spotify. I'll share why. But YouTube is to be prioritized, guys. So reason number 1 is that YouTube is the easiest. It's very important if you want to start a podcast and you're not full-time podcaster, if you're a coach or a light worker and you just want to have 4 hours a week to dedicate to a weekly podcast that's going to support your brand and your business, you want to keep things easy. You want to do the 80-20. You want to do the 20% of work that brings the 80% of results. So YouTube is very easy. You already have a Google account. If you're here, you're already watching YouTube. Basically, you can just connect and post a video, and that's it. There's nothing to learn about Spotify for creators and how to post on Apple Podcasts and being approved there and using potential extra resources like Buzzsprouts, all this. It's free, it's easy. You can use YouTube from the start. A couple of things you need to know. You want to do a verification to post over 30 minutes. You want to do another verification to post links in the descriptions. But apart from that, so simple. Number 2 is that YouTube has become the biggest podcasting platform. When people think of podcasting, they often think iTunes, now Apple Podcast, more recently Spotify. And these are still active and relatively big platforms, but there's been a shift where podcasting has become more video-based and more on YouTube. And if you look at the top podcasts these days, something like Diary of a CEO, they're very active with their strategy on YouTube, much more than on any of those other platforms. Spotify is trying to catch up, but they changed the name from Spotify for podcasters to creators to do more video, but they're still losing market shares to YouTube. So YouTube is the biggest, and it's simple, it's big. Just for most people, I'd say focus on this. Point number 3 is a very important one. YouTube is the second biggest search engine in the world after Google. Google owns YouTube and recommends YouTube video in the Google searches. So basically, when you prioritize YouTube as a platform to post your content, you can easily get discovered by new people. iTunes and Spotify, it's very hard to be discovered unless you're in the top 10. But YouTube, you can have a niche, be small, and be discovered. So for example, you could have, if you're a coach, a relationship coach that helps men with when women wants to have a divorce. Well, you could do content on this, and people go on YouTube and search what to do if my wife wants a divorce. They don't go on Spotify and iTunes and search what to do if my wife wants a divorce. They go on YouTube or on Google, and then they find your video. So it's really important to be on YouTube for that and to prioritize it, and even to create titles that you think will get you discovered from new people. And I speak from experience. I have some of my content in the Light Leaders podcast is having a few hundred views on my Spotify and 11 or 12,000 views on YouTube. And most of those views are from non-subscribers. So use the search engine capabilities of YouTube. That's probably the most important point, to be honest. The most compelling reason. Number 4 is social proof. iTunes, Spotify, they're a little bit black boxes. People say, oh, I have that podcast. It has that many downloads and it has is big, is top ranked, is a top 10 something, and there's no way to verify it. You know, it's a little bit like in the book business where people say I'm a bestseller and you don't really know if it's true. With YouTube, you can see the number of subscribers. It's all transparent. You can see the number of views for each video, so you can't BS. And I like that. It's transparent. So YouTube offers you the social proof that podcasts don't. People can just see if you have millions of subscribers or if you don't. They can see the best performing videos from the views easily. They can see the likes, the comments, which leads to point number 5, the interactive nature of YouTube. If you want to get also closer to the people who are your viewers, if you want to create community thanks to your podcast, it's really cool to leverage YouTube rather than the old podcasting platforms because you have comments, and now there's a community tab too where you can make a post on your YouTube channel. So it's much more engaging, it's much more interactive with your audience, especially for people who want to build a business on the back of the YouTube channel. That's going to be very helpful. And number 6 is the analytics. The YouTube analytics are the best. You can go super into details with things like looking at the retention, where in your video do people live, and you can look into things. You can do A/B tests, try 2 different thumbnails, see what resonates. So you can really play around with YouTube and see what resonates with people and what doesn't, what works, what doesn't work. So that's really interesting too. But that being said, that's why you should prioritize YouTube, but still post on Spotify and Apple, because a typical behavior is people finding you on YouTube, maybe engaging with you on YouTube, but then also potentially listening to your episodes on Spotify and Apple. Like they'll find you on YouTube and then they'll subscribe, let's say on Spotify, and next week they have a plane trip and they only go on Spotify and they subscribe to you there. And the good thing once they subscribe to you on Spotify or Apple or podcasting platform is that it's less noisy than YouTube. That's the one big downside of YouTube, especially now they've started the shorts. It has that social media feel where there's a lot of distraction. Well, once people are subscribed to your podcast on something like Spotify, there's much less distraction. It's much easier for them to spend 30 minutes or an hour with you without clicking away after 2 minutes if it's not as engaging as they'd like. So that's why I prioritize YouTube. That's why for most people, I also recommend that. Now, if you want to dive more into what's specifically best for you, we can also have a call. I do 3 sessions of an hour with other conscious leaders who want to start, grow, and monetize a podcast and YouTube channel. You have the link in the description. And also, I'd love to know, what did you take away from this video? Do you agree that most people should post on YouTube? Do you have any follow-up questions on that? I read all the comments and answer all of them too. So please, let's make it interactive. Let's use what we have with the YouTube platform. And I look forward to seeing your comments. I wish you a beautiful day.